Welcome, everybody, to Aquarian Anarchy. I am Chad. We've got Marcus and Nico waiting in the wings, and we've got a very special guest with us as well. First, I will read our quote for this week. Benjamin Franklin says, "It is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority." And with that, we bring our very special guest, the one and only Larry Sharpe. Thank you, Larry, for joining us. How you been,
I'm here and happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so we got a chance to talk quite a few times this weekend. I think we shared like 3 different meals together and had conversations with a variety of folks. And it's funny, like Marcus originally, when me coming back from the Solutionary Summit, and I was at Hotep Nation weekend a couple of weeks ago, we were kind of going to go with the theme of building bridges and doing that sort of thing. I like
that theme.
And this was going to be our cover graphic for this week. But then you and I sat down on the yacht party. Thanks. Shout out to Maj Touré for the Solutionary Summit. That was amazing.
I hope you're all jealous. We were on a yacht and you weren't.
I so wanted to do the Lonely Island. I'm on a boat and redo it, but I didn't. I never found the time. So anyway, but you and I had a really good conversation that was basically around that topic about how we can work together to put petty differences aside and recognize who the real enemy is. And the real enemy is the state, the overpowering, overwhelming, authoritarian state. And so I want to talk to you about like what your experience has been in trying to tackle that, because you've had a variety of different guests like we have trying to bridge some of those gaps and just focus on
the biggest problem that we have to understand when it comes to the state is the state does provide some very important things that sadly most communities have forgotten or don't know how to provide. Right? Remember, whenever you add government or the state, you by default remove community. That's how it works. You can't have both strong. You either have strong community or you have strong government. You can't have strong both. So as we've added the state, we've removed community. So now what happens? Where do people get most of their stability from? Not their community, from the state.
Right.
Where do they get most of their hope from? Not the community, from the state. So the state does provide something for the populace. It just does it extremely poorly, and most of it's a lie. But it does provide it, though. So since we've been doing it for so long, for many communities, we've lost the institutional knowledge to support ourselves. And you saw that with the COVID lockdowns, right? The COVID lockdowns, all of a sudden now, how do we educate our kids without the government school? And communities began to fail. How do we create wealth without the government allowing us to go to work? We started the black market again, right? You see that we struggled because that was what I saw was the biggest piece. The community struggled to support their own people because government had supported them for so long. So when government said, I'll just write you all a check, we said, whew, good, because we didn't know what to do. So I'm glad you're writing us checks. And the government does several things well. It does 4 things very well. Number one, kill people. Thank you. Yep. Number 1. Really good. If you want to kill millions of people, the state is your answer, right? I mean, they're really good at that, right? So how can I kill tens of millions?
The democide number for the 20th century was 260 million, according to a study by the University of Hawaii.
The average sociopath can't come close to that. So I'm just saying, not even close.
No.
So you want to kill people, state awesome at that. Second, imprisoning people. Man, are we good at that. State is awesome at that. Very good. 3, checking unnecessary boxes. So good. So good. Like no other organization would ever go that far to check unnecessary boxes. Only government will. And if you ever say to yourself, you know what? My process is far too efficient. I would really like it to be completely inefficient. Government, I got you. I got you. I will make that thing so inefficient that you will be shocked. You will be awed by how unnecessarily inefficient it is.
And just in case you try to be efficient, we will audit you and find all the ways that you fucked up and were efficient and ruin your life for another 6 months.
And we will punish you for even trying to be efficient. Right. We will make sure you will never be efficient. So if you want to be, totally inefficient completely, unnecessary check boxes, government has got you covered. And the 4th thing, just writing checks. Government's very good at that. Making fake money from the Fed and writing checks. And that's so if any of those 4 things you want, government's got you. But sadly, I don't really want any of those things. So I'm not really a big fan. But that's a skill set. So when problems happened, it did what it does best. It wrote checks. It's good at that. So it said, well, I don't want to imprison people because I already put them in their home. So I kind of already did imprison them. So I even imprison the down low. Like I don't even just openly imprison.
No, for sure.
I imprison the down low. I really don't want to kill them right now. So, well, if you're New York State, the governor does send old people to their deaths. So the government did kill them, right? So we did some killing. We did some imprisoning, right? Done. We made sure that everybody getting anything was a complete disaster. So everything down. We couldn't get out tests. So we did the inefficiency thing, had that done. And the last piece was write checks. Government in its element.
Perfect.
Check box all four.
And
well done, government.
And the way the dirty little secret that I think everybody knows about at this point, but if you don't, we're here to tell you, is none of this shit is actually free. All it is it's borrowed against your future or your kids or your grandkids' future.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
And that's why you see the buying power of the dollar continue to decline.
I'm going to add all that stuff up and say something, but bad. You might go, well, then, Larry, why in the hell do people love government then? Why do so many, if what you're saying is true, and it clearly is, why do so many people love government? And here's the thing that most of us in the liberty movement don't understand. What most people see is if there's no government, then there's nothing. They can't imagine something else. So they feel like if you take government away, oh my God, the world's ending. And we, as people in the movement, we are not good at expressing what will be there in its stead. We don't do it well. And when it comes to the two major parties, they have the biggest megaphones, right? The right side, generally speaking, conservative Republicans will often say things like, well, look, it isn't that bad. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Just lower some taxes. They'll say stuff like that. Or let's just fight the left because they're evil. They'll say that kind of thing. Right. If I'm in trouble, if I feel bad, like things are wrong, that's not an answer for me. And the left goes, I got you covered, Chad. You got a problem? I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a whole lot of government. I'll give you programs. See, I'll give you programs. And someone might go, well, those programs may not work, but it is an idea. And I have no idea and bad idea. Right. I'll take bad idea because it's better than no idea. If you notice, what made people like me follow me when I ran for office, what makes people still speak to me often now is because I go out of my way to create policies and answers. I rarely talk about libertarianism. What I talk about is libertarian solutions to people's problems. Right. I know I'm winning when they think I'm whatever they are, right? So if a Democrat goes, you must be a Democrat, I'm winning. If a Republican goes, you must be a Republican, I'm winning. Because they like what I'm saying, so they assume I'm one of them. That's when I'm winning.
Absolutely. That's winning.
For sure. And I've experienced a bit of that myself too. I went to I'm a hippie, and I went to a little hippie gathering, and there was a guy there, and I was explaining what I believed, and I didn't use, I prefer the term either anarchist or voluntarist, but I've used libertarian before. And so there was a guy there who was like your typical, really, really far left. And he was like, oh yeah. And somebody says, watch out. I don't remember the guy's name. He said, watch out, whatever. This guy's a libertarian. And he goes, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's far left. I've been talking to him for an hour. So yeah, I've experienced a bit of that. And I think there's some truth to that.
100%. So, if I could touch two pieces of that, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Chad?
No, I just remind me to ask you a question from one of our guys in our audience. So go ahead.
So the piece you meant about calling yourself an anarchist or such. A lot of mainstream candidates, and I consider myself a mainstream candidate. Man, do they hate anarchists. Get mad. They're so bad. We can't stand them. To my knowledge, I'm the only mainstream. Yes. Yeah. To my knowledge, I'm the only mainstream candidate who has never said that. In fact, I embrace the anarchist side of the party. I embrace them. And the reason why I do it is without the anarchists in our movement, we will become either Democrat light or Republican light. They are our North Star. They keep us pointing in the right direction. Without them, this party will not exist. So I'm a big fan. I say it openly all the time. And in my heart, and I said this in a Reason magazine article like 4 years ago, in my heart, I'm one too. Mm-hmm. But I realize as a candidate, by default, I must be a minarchist. Mm-hmm. So I am in practice, if that makes any sense. But would I like us to be a totally voluntary society? Of course I would. Of course I would. And my goal, and I look at my state, we're going in the opposite direction. I want us at least turn to what I think I can do is at least turn the state to face the right direction. I think that's what I can do. I can get my state to go, oh, why don't we walk that way? I can do that. I don't know if I can go any further, but I know I can do that. So I just wanted to bring that piece up. I completely get what you're saying. And the next thing I want to bring up is you did a great thing with that, right? With the way you talked to that person. I actually was at the New York State Fair about 2 weeks ago. And a woman came up to me. And this is after my Governor Cuomo, had already stepped down from all his allegations, all the stuff he had done. She still supported Cuomo. And I said, okay, can I ask you why? And she said, Larry, you don't get it. He spoke about important issues. He spoke about this and spoke about that and spoke about this. And I said, you're right. He did. I agree with you. He spoke about all those things. My worry is his actions were so bad and so hypocritical compared to what he was saying that in the long run, he actually did far more damage than good. And she was like, you know, I think you're right. And she signed up for a Libertarian Party email.
My man.
Awesome.
So yes, I want to tell those stories, Marcus. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It just reminds me of the Emmett Goldman quote where she said, you know, a politician promises you heaven before the election and gives you hell after.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
absolutely.
so, and I wanted to say like what you were saying, Larry, about anarchists. And that's why we have chosen, I know the name of the show is Aquarian Anarchy, and we embrace that. But Marcus went and did some digging when we got kind of challenged on that whole thing, because some people were like, y'all need to change the name. It's not very palatable. And we were like, no, we're going to fight for this word because it means something. And I'm not going to let it, it's not, I don't think it's like capitalism, where capitalism was like invented by socialists and is like, has like all these other things that you have to explain. There's monarchy. That's one ruler. There's oligarchy, which is ruled by like this ruling class of like, some sort of like fascist corporatist sort of makeup. And then there's anarchy, which is without a ruler, but we don't have that. So we can't even really be anarchists because we're not living that way. So we have chosen to describe ourselves, thanks to Marcus's research, as anarchs. We're not a monarch. We're not an oligarch, but we are an anarch. We rule ourselves. We own ourselves, and we assert our self-ownership. Now, we don't live in a society that has that all of those voluntary interactions, but we try to live those ourselves. We live those ourselves. We don't.
No, I'm with you. My worry is not the denotation of the word.
Oh yeah,
the connotation of the word, and the connotation of anarchy is chaos.
Chaos, exactly.
Even though it's not the same, the connotation, the denotation is not chaos.
Right.
But the connotation is chaos.
Sure.
So
intentional.
Correct. So often you'll see me not use that word. I'll use voluntary society.
Yeah, right.
I often use that because if I ask somebody, wouldn't you want a voluntary society? They go, yeah. Wouldn't you like anarchy? No, because then we'll be in the streets shooting machine guns to get gasoline like Mad Max.
Right.
That's what they see. That's what they think. They think, I don't know how to fight with a sword.
Listen,
I can't do that.
We might end up like that anyway, the way things are going right now. So
you are right.
I'm like, hey guys, like you're telling me, and it seems to always be the case that people who argue against anarchy always bring up things that are already happening under statism. Like,
always.
Yeah, but then there's going to be murder. I'm like, oh, that's right, because there's no murder now. My bad.
Right. Yes.
You know, like give me a break. So I wanted to bring up this question that Hotep Darrell had asked. Bring it up on the screen. He says, Larry, can you speak for a moment to conservatives who see themselves being saved by a Republican politician? Because that's one of those things. They're supposed to be small government, and then they're looking. They need Ron DeSantis or Trump needs to save them, and it's like, whoa.
The question isn't exactly accurate.
Okay.
They're not looking to be saved. They are okay. I gotta be clear. Okay. They're not looking at. They don't think the Republican Party is going to give them what they want. They just think the Republican Party is the only option other than the Socialist Democrats. When you actually show conservatives another way, many of them will abandon the Republican Party. How do I know that? In my state, I've seen it. Mm-hmm. Literally, I saw tons of conservatives abandon the Republican Party and come to libertarians because libertarians will actually leave us alone and let us be conservative. Yeah, we will. You can be as conservative as you want to be. Absolutely, you can. We will leave you alone. And I think many of them will once they see that. The problem is we haven't been good at showing them that. And Republicans are very good at saying, I'll protect you from the evil Democrats. I'll protect you from the evil Republicans. And what conservatives fear Democrats more than they love us.
Yeah. And
that's the issue. They have built the fear of Democrats into most conservatives, and they will just, Republicans will hold on to what we have. And the Republican Party will if we lose it, it'll be a little bit of it, not much. And I see it in my own party, my own state. The Conservative Party in my state loves me because they're like, you'll actually let us be conservative. Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Nico, you started to comment earlier.
No, I was going to say it's funny how they turn language against us, and they like to recreate language. That's how history is recreated is through the idea of you believing that you know the right track of history or the right track of language, when in all actuality, they're just programming you to just be a false narrative of their history.
Yes. If you ever listen to socialists on socialist podcasts, very often they will use the word libertarian. When they use the word libertarian, it's not a descriptor. It's an insult. Mm-hmm. Right? They go, that thing, it's so libertarian. That doesn't mean I'm describing it. It means it's bad. Right? It's an insult.
It's like saying shitty.
Correct. Yes, it's the same thing. Right?
Which is what they do to anarchists too.
Right.
Correct. Yes. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. So you're totally correct. They've changed the name. They've changed the word. But to be fair, they've done it with each other too. If a conservative is talking about someone and uses the word liberal, that's also an insult.
Yeah.
If a liberal is talking to someone else and they call them conservative, that's also an insult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I kind of want to bring to the table, and I think this is a good time, is that, I'm kind of pissed off at the Libertarian Party largely, and mainly because they told me to take a walk. I know. And
you're not a real libertarian if you're not
right. I'm not a real libertarian apparently, but
now you are. You hate the LP. You are now a real libertarian.
That's what I'm saying. You're not a real libertarian if you're not pissed off at the LP.
Right.
You've graduated, Marcus. Congratulations.
I think Marcus is in like his fourth postgraduate degree. He's been pissed off at the LP the whole time.
So I really want, I want to say this because I really do want a strong libertarian party, because I think that it is most certainly the easiest bridge from statism to true freedom, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it anarchism or you want to call it voluntarism or whatever ism or anity you want to call it. I think it's valuable. And in that way, screw getting elected. I don't believe in any of that crap. They're not going to give up their power because somebody voted. These are people that murder people. They don't care about votes. But I want to see a strong libertarian party. And all I've seen, and to be honest, Adam Kokesh brought me to the Libertarian Party. We became friends. I got involved with his campaign, and he said, you know what? I want you to get involved. So I got involved. And when I say I got involved, I campaigned for our governor here in Indiana. I worked for Mark Rutherford.
Rainwater, right?
Huh?
Rainwater.
Donald Rainwater.
Yeah, Donald Rainwater.
Yeah, I had him on my show. I like him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And I worked for Mark Rutherford when he ran for Secretary of State. Fantastic individual. I did what I was supposed to do. And I have seen nothing but a shit show the entire time. Like, I could get my kids to organize some shit better than these people do. And, especially over the past year and a half or so, when we should be just rising. One of the things Rothbard one of the things Rothbard talked about is that that one of the things that hurt the Libertarian Party the most was Ronald Reagan, because he showed that government can work. Now, his words, not mine. And we've seen in the past couple of years that government sucks. And if the world doesn't pay attention, I don't know what the hell they're paying attention to. So how do we get from the shit show that we're talking about now? You've been a very good leader. You are not a shit show. How do we get there? How do we get these morons on the boat?
Let me give you first a philosophical top and then some details. And then I'll even give you a cure-all, a panacea. I'll give you it all. Oh, wow. First, you should think separately the Libertarian Party and the Liberty Movement.
Sure.
You should see them as two separate things. Most people don't. Mm-hmm. And most people in the LP still think the LP is just the movement political. In my view, that's not true. And their argument is very often, well, the Libertarian Party was made as an activist party. It was. It should no longer be. It was. That's accurate. I think it is my view. It should no longer be. Two separate pieces. If you are an activist, your job is to get people to care about stuff. That's your job. And you should do whatever it is. And your messaging should be whatever works. If you think messaging is going to be legalize, recreational cocaine, awesome. Good. If that works, good. Or if it's, the one I don't like, but some people like, we're physically conservative and socially liberal. I hate that one, but some people like it, right? And the reason why I say that is I want the message to be broad, because I came to the party because I heard Gary Johnson speak. That's how I came to the party. And when I heard Gary Johnson speak, I thought he was a radical. I am far more radical than Gary Johnson is now, right? But at that point, that's what I needed to hear. That's what I could hear to come. Other things I just couldn't hear. He was the guy who spoke to me. And that's everywhere. Some people, you can yell taxation stuff. They'll be like, yeah. And some people are like, that's dumb. So the movement should have broad messaging with lots of different things to bring everybody in for whatever they are. The party is different, in my view. And people disagree with me. The party needs to be about solutions only. Just about solutions. That's it. Here's how we fix this. Here's how we fix that. Because the average voter doesn't actually care about anything except, will you make my life better? Will you fix my thing? I've got a problem. Can you fix it? How do I know that? Because when I did that in 2018, I multiplied the last guy's votes by 6, and I had a crappy ballot, and I had a big problem with everything, and the deck was stacked against me, and I got more votes than anybody ever got, and I raised $500,000. No one except for the presidency has ever run a bigger campaign than I have. And that's because I did exactly that. So conceptually, think of them as two separate issues. One is to get people to care. All kind of messages. Get them in. Right. And the more anarchist you are, please do me a favor. Don't be angry. Start teaching. That's what I want you to do. Stop being angry and start teaching. You anarchist, you have some of the best knowledge in our entire movement, and you spend too much time yelling at people. Don't yell. Teach them. When I came to the Libertarian Party, I wasn't thinking, I thought anarchist was crazy. Now I identify as one. Why? Because people talk to me, right? So please stop yelling. I'm asking you, and start teaching. That would be nice.
Well, for what it's worth, that's what we're trying to do. That's
I love it.
As Marcus has described it, we are supposed to be we're the flower that comes out of the end of the gun. Like we are the peace and love, message that you get about anarchy and freedom. So
100%.
Question.
So that's the bigger piece. Oh, I still have more.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm not done. This is not an easy thing. Marcus asked the serious question. This is not.
You're next, Nico. You're next, Nico.
Yes.
But
after that, I want us to look at the Libertarian movement as the Mongols. Yes, as the Mongol Empire. I'm serious. Look at it like that. When there is one enemy, the Mongols all get together. They leave their homes, and they fight like hell. They are outgunned, and they still conquer because they don't care. They will go out there and fight. When there is no enemy, they break up into tribes and often fight each other. That's us. If we don't have a mission, We stay in our own camps and we fight each other. When we have a mission, like you said, Marcus, when you had a mission, Rainwater, everybody got together. That was a mission. We need a mission constantly. The problem that we have is our mission tends to be every 4 or 2 years. We need a mission every year, and that's where we struggle. And the more talent we have, the more missions we'll have. And the mission shouldn't only be a candidate. It can be, but it could be ending a tax. It could be changing a law. It could be ending something else. But there's got to be mission. With mission, the Mongol horde will get together and attack. Without mission, we will sit at home and fight each other and break up into khanates. So we should think of it that way. Mission is critical for us. And now the panacea, the thing for the party, not the movement, for the party that will cure all. Good candidates. Everything else is secondary. Everything else is secondary. And I'm not even joking. Organization, secondary. Fundraising, secondary. The LP itself.
You got a good candidate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. How do I know
droves
this?
for Ron Paul because
bingo.
Because Ron Paul was a rock star.
Yes. Now Ron Paul left us though. I haven't left us. So I ran in 2018.
Saying, like, he was
I'm agreeing with you.
The movement. Yeah.
So did Gary Johnson. But a lot of people left us also with Gary Johnson. But right, I ran in 2018. And in 2018, we only had 16 county affiliates out of 62 counties. Now we have 32. We doubled it. We only had 7,000 registered libertarians. Now we have almost 30,000. That's what happens with a good candidate who stays. When I ran, I lost, but I gained ballot access, and then I traveled the state again the year after. And we got 103 libertarians elected the next year. 103. Then the state saw that and said, oh, I don't like that, and canceled ballot access and got rid of our party. That actually happened. I'm making that actually happened.
Yeah.
So my point is a good candidate. And here's my rule on candidates, though. Top of the ticket. While I always want to run to win, I always want to run a serious campaign to run to win. Their goal is actually not necessarily victory. Their goal is press. Because the top of the ticket has the least chance of victory, but the best chance for press. The bottom of the ticket has the least chance for press, but the best chance for victory.
Absolutely.
So you use the top of the ticket to push press down to the bottom of the ticket to win. And how do I know this? I did this. In 2018, I got tons of press. In 2019, I traveled the state again, only supporting local candidates, bringing press to them. And they won.
Yeah.
This is the panacea. The cure-all is that because once you start having candidates, people organize around the candidates. Once we have a lot of local candidates running, it's constant mission. And if we have constant mission, they'll keep going. I mean, that was a long answer, but I actually had an answer for you.
The final piece of that panacea, though, that you didn't mention is when you get those candidates winning at the bottom, you actually increase the success of that filtering upward because now you have established people who have actually won races and people have a track record to look at and say, oh, well, this guy didn't try to fuck us over. And so then they get to run for other offices with a track record that they can actually put up against their opponents.
Yes. That's like phase 2. I was only on phase 1.
No, but you're right. I wanted to help, give you that
totally correct.
Too. All right, Nico, you had a question.
No, I was going to ask, how would you present this to like completely left libertarian ideas to completely leftist people?
Yeah.
And I mean, you did
I'll
tip
give
off
you
on it, but
I'll give you 2 of them, right? One of them is an actual example that I dealt with an individual just to get them to rethink, and then one is an actual policy issue. I'll give you both. I'm sorry if I yap a lot. I do this a lot, and I always have answers.
Here. We want to hear what you have to say.
So first off, I'm at an event. A young lady's there, maybe 19, 20 years old, and I sit down. She says, "Larry, I think I'm a communist." And there are other libertarians around. So the first thing I do is go, "Get back! I got this. Get back!" Right? Because they're ready to attack and start talking about, let me tell you about Bastiat. I'm like, "Shh, get away." So I said, "Okay, great. Can I talk to you?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to make a guess here. The reason why you're a communist is because you want things to be fair, right?" And she went, "Yeah." I said, "Great, me too." Now, why do I use that word? Because most people on the left want things to be fair. And they have confused fairness with equality and equity. They've confused those words. To them, they all mean the same thing.
Sure.
But I have to show them what fairness actually is. So I say, you want things to be fair, because I want things to be fair too, right? We have different definitions of what that word is. So I said, fair. She goes, yeah. I said, great. I said, let me ask you, would you think something like fair would be, say, I don't know, everybody gets a 2-bedroom apartment? She was like, yeah, that'd be great. I said, I agree. That would be great. I'm with you. Let me ask you, let's say and there was another guy with me. What if this guy here, he's got like 4 kids. I got no kids, and we both have a 2-bedroom apartment. So I've got like a spare bedroom, and he's cramming people in rooms. What should we do now? She said, I guess maybe you should, maybe we should, I said, do you know what usually happens in a communist or socialist world? She said, what? I said, people with weapons, usually men with guns, but not always. They got machetes or something, but it's always people with weapons, usually men with guns, who will come by and they'll decide. And if I don't like it, I go to prison. And if I don't want to go to prison, I die. That's kind of how that works. She said, I hate that. I said, me too. I hate that too. That's the true story.
We all hate communism. Woo.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't say those words.
No, right.
I didn't say those words.
It's implied.
And exactly it is, but I didn't say that. Then I said, you know what? I think socialism could work. I think it could. If you were okay with constant state-sponsored violence. She said, I don't like that. I said, me either. I don't like that either. And she was like, maybe I'm not a communist. And I was done.
Yeah.
And I was done. That was it. I was done. I had gotten her to think, maybe I'm not a communist. I'm done. I can walk away. Her ears are now open. She will hear the things. Things may work. Now, that was a general thing, right? Don't say they're wrong. Just ask them questions about fairness and how things could work and find out where you agree. That's a critical piece. Find out where you agree. I get them to know that I'm not about violence or hurting people. We're on the same page here. We both want the same thing. And that's the piece. If we get them to want the same thing, we'll be okay. Let me give you another answer. Most socialists today aren't actually about Marx and Lenin and stuff like that. Most aren't. Some are, but most aren't. They're about what's called democratization of the workforce. Right? That's what they're about. They're about, workers owning the means of production.
Right.
So I said, okay, will Democrats give you that? Well, I know they're always fighting you. They're never gonna. I will. I said, what? And this is what I won't do, but this is what they want. In the socialist world, that means you have to do one important thing. Nationalize all the banks, and the government then decides who gets the money when you allow for no private businesses. Everything's a worker co-op. That's their socialist utopia, which is not going to happen, and I'm totally against. However, here's what I will give them. I'm open to having very special plans that will allow them to have worker co-ops. And I tell them, look, you can vote for your Democrat who will ignore you and do nothing for you and act like they care and screw you over. Or you can support someone like me. And what I'll do is I'll allow something. Say, let's say, for example, you and 5 other people, 10 other people get fired or get laid off because your company goes under. As a state, I got to pay you your unemployment. I'm going to pay you anyway, right? How about this? I'll give you an option. You get 10 people together. I'll give all of the money I was going to pay you to you up front and now start a business. And the business to be started must be a worker co-op. If it's a worker co-op, you get the money up front. Go, start the worker co-op. If within the first 5 years or 3 years, depending on how you look at it, it works, that is now a loan you must pay back, which now means I, as a state, have an interest in you succeeding. You succeed, it's a loan. You pay me back. You don't succeed, I guess it didn't work. But I'm paying you either way. There's your money. Go. That kind of thing is voluntary. You don't want to do it? Don't do it. You want to do it? Do it. I'm paying you anyway, so there's no extra taxation. It's the same I'm always going to pay. Hasn't changed. But now I give them the option. The reality is most people won't do it. That's how it works. They just won't. Some people will. And if it winds up and their idea is a great idea, then others will copy. That's awesome. I also say I will make it easier for you to create a credit union, which is basically socialized banking. I'll make it easier. Right now, it's difficult to create a credit union. I'll make it easier, which is libertarian. It's voluntarism. We actually match on this. This is not anti-libertarian at all. It's voluntary. You want to get together and you want to own your own company? Go ahead. No extra taxes because I'm paying you anyway. And when it comes to the credit unions, it's your money. Do what you want with it.
Agreed.
All right,
that's how you talk. That's how you talk to the left.
Absolutely.
I think it's time for a word from our sponsor, Nico.
Yo, How's everybody going? And I know if you didn't answer to the screen, it didn't matter, but you know what to do with that $5, boo or fool. It didn't matter. Because it's for both them or they, because we are very, very nice to all genders in this motherfucker. And we want you to be comfortable when we drop these gems on you. So $5 to the Patreon won't hurt. And plus, like, I skipped out like twice on this interview, so you want to help on this $5 Patreon and help me with the internet. So I want you. But at the end of the day, much appreciated. Thank you for watching.
Yes, and you get to join the Anarch chat where you can get the gems that are dropped in there on the daily. So all right, we will continue now. Marcus, you had a question for Mr. Sharpe.
Yeah, I think that largely, I agree with everything you said, and this is where I went through like a lot of transformations in my political life, if you will, and I really think that that's what's led me is looking at ideas. And one of the things that really impressed me about your explanation, and I actually have another comment on that as well. But what I like is that you're using the ideas that the left has, and you're not discounting them. You're
Absolutely.
adopting them and making them work for you. And I think that is a very powerful way of doing that. I think that the comment that I had was, I really think that largely Dan Berman was doing a lot of that especially towards the end of his campaign in the last election cycle. And because he was very much looking at part of his platform was looking at what the left wants and trying to provide it. And I think that approach is going to be useful moving forward as we try to find solutions. But my question for you is, so back to kind of the ideas that we kind of started with. One of the things that we talk about a lot is that we're never going to get to, at least this is my belief, we're never going to get to freedom through the ballot box. And how we get to freedom, and by freedom I mean a world without government, is by making the government irrelevant. What ways do you suggest that people can start, just begin, doing things in their own personal life to do that? What are your suggestions?
Well, can I give a little bit of a key to like unlock the door to that like you in New York City?
I already know.
We're seeing, you're seeing it firsthand, so like with just what's going on in the last couple of months with all the mandates and everything like that, to get into restaurants and all this other kind of stuff. What are some ways that people can
let me see if I can grab a couple of these. The first thing you were talking about was hold on, let me see if I get my head straight in this one. You were saying, how do we get people? Okay, first off, I think you're right, but not right when it comes to the ballot box. What do I mean by that? The stars of today that cross over all media are all politicians.
Facts.
Yes, they're all politicians. They're the only ones who cross over all media, right? The days of The Rock, when he was a super movie star, he's waning. He's the end, right? He's the last one of those types. Back in the day when like Arnold Schwarzenegger could cross everything. That's like 90s and stuff. Those days are over. The Rock is about the end of it. Now, what we have is politicians. So winning at the ballot box is important, but even if they don't, Bernie has done more for socialism than any other socialist on the planet in America. More than any other socialist. AOC has too, right? So if you want to move things, politicians are the people who move them. So look at Ron Paul, perfect example. Sure. Ron Paul hasn't been in Congress in how long? And he still affects policy. So I think we do, but not in the traditional way, Mark, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
We have to run so we get the bully pulpit, right? I look at myself now. I was a consultant in my own business for 15 years before I ran. I ran, and just within 1 year, I stopped marketing because people reach out to me and I could stop my marketing budget. I grew faster. My company grew faster after I ran.
Wow.
Than the 15 years before.
That's crazy.
Most don't even know my company's name. It's behind me, by the way. This is my company. It's called the Neosage. People don't know that. And I don't care if they know that because they just want to use me for stuff because I'm popular now. So that's how that works, right? I'm not joking. That's true. I get to speak at colleges. I get to speak at high schools. I get consulting gigs all the time because I ran for governor. That's why. So even that. So the first part I want to say is you're right, meaning we're not going to hit the policy and turn. You're right. But the bully pulpit will change the culture. And this is a cultural change. Now, policies. That's the first piece. We need a culture change. The policies. Something to remember with almost all government. Government usually is two things. It's a monopoly and a jobs program. So if you just remove government, people just lost jobs and there's nothing there, which means people are afraid and you've encouraged the black market. You see all of the violence now across the country. Most of it, the vast majority of it, 90% at least, is because of the black market. That's why it's violence. Black market. So we could not have a black market. How do we do that? By creating policies that instead of trying to knock down Goliath, create a whole bunch of Davids that whenever they want can collapse the Goliath, right? I'll give you a couple of ideas that I came up with in New York State locally. One of them was, right now, if you're going to send a bunch of money to Albany, our capital, right, for taxes. Instead, what if you were able, up to you voluntarily, to give $250 of that tax dollars to a nonprofit? If that nonprofit is in your state, it's doubled $500. I'm sorry, in your county, it's doubled $500. Encouraging localism. And that nonprofit only rule is it may not take government money. That's it. That's the only goal. It may not take government money. As long as it does nonprofit that does not take government money, it qualifies. That's it.
I love it, now, Larry. This is good shit.
Most people won't do anything, but some will. And now what does that mean? Now I start a new business. I'm going to start a nonprofit that say, I don't know, fixes potholes. I'm making that up. And I go, hey, why don't you guys give me money to fix the potholes? Give me your $500. And I now have to petition every year to get that money. If I get 10,000 people in my county to give me $500, I just got $5 million to fix the potholes. If I do a crappy job, guess what? You won't give me any money next year. If I do a good job, you'll keep giving me money. And eventually the government pothole fixers either get better or service the other places better, or they go away because the nonprofit hires away all the pothole fixers.
Or they write a law.
Right? Exactly. So that happens naturally. That's one way. Second way, right now in New York State, one of the biggest things across the country, but I'm focusing on New York State, is the idea of childcare. Very expensive. Really expensive, right? Local churches used to do it all the time, but they all got regulated out. Now they can't afford it anymore. It's too expensive to do it, right? Okay. So now we have the idea of what's called a child garden. Again, this is voluntary, right? You don't have to do it if you don't want to. You don't have to give your $500 away if you don't want to. Up to you. Child garden. Child garden says, let's say, for example, Chad, do you have any kids?
I have 3.
All right. So do you ever take your kids to the park? You ever do that?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
we go play basketball and
I love it. So you're taking your kids to the park one day. I say, do me a favor, Chad. Take my daughter with you. And you go, sure, absolutely. I say, I'll give you $5. We get some ice cream or something. You go, yeah, great. You take them away. Do you require state licensing for that? No, of course you don't. Of course you don't. So you do it. You take my daughter with your kids. You have a good time. You come back. Life is good. I go home. Why can't I make that same agreement with any, again, local nonprofit? Any local nonprofit. I mean, same agreement. It's called a child garden. It's not childcare. That still exists. If you want licensed childcare, you can pay for licensed childcare if you're scared. Or you can say that your local VFW, your local American Legion, your local Black church, your local Catholic church, whatever, they can, if they want to, create their own child garden. If you want voluntarily, you can drop your kid off there if you want to, for whatever they want. If it's a local church, here's what I know it's going to be. Here's the price, Chad. I'm telling you the price. Bingo night's Thursday, you're calling the numbers. We start 9 o'clock Sunday. I'll see you here. And if you care about that church, you'll do those things because you care about that church, and they'll take care of your kids. And you now begin to build community out. So you keep building out community that now can deal with the other things. But it's voluntary. Most people won't do it. Some will. Now, my response I was getting is, but Larry, they don't have background checks. First off, then ask them to have background checks, and they will. It's voluntary. Or go to your regular place that does background checks. Go there. I'm not forcing you to drop your kid off at the local place. It's up to you. It's an option for you. Right. You create those types of environments where now the community is given a push to start. Right? The community is given a push to start and build those Davids up. And people go, oh, that can work. Two more things you can do. Change all licensing to credentialing. Right? That's a very big distinction. So right now in New York State, if you want to get, like, say, your hair be a hair braider, it costs you $20,000 to get through all the stuff to get a license for it. I'm not joking. That's how New York State works. So instead, So instead, make it a credential. So if you want to braid hair, but you don't get the New York State credential. If it's a license and you do it, you go to jail and get fined. If it's a credential, you only get fined if you put a fake credential up. And that's fraud, and you should be punished for that. You should not, there should be no fraud.
But if somebody wants to get their hair braided and they don't care that you're not credentialed, who gives a shit? It's not their business.
And what does that do? That creates local community businesses. Again, the local communities can. And something else will happen. Local groups will then create their own credentialing. Right. So now the government isn't as required because they'll create their own credentialing that will now compete with the government. So now you and the community will decide, wait a minute, do I trust government credentials? I do. I'm only going to places that have government credentials. Or I don't. Oh, I trust the other guy, the New York hair people's credential. I care more about that one. So I'll go to the one I want. I don't mind communities shutting down places or messing them up. That's fine. I'm not okay with government doing it. If communities don't like someone who braids hair and they go out of business, too bad, you were a crappy hair braider. But if the government shuts you down because you don't have the license they have, that's a problem.
Or if the government strong arms all the businesses around to do the same thing and do their bidding for them. Illegal. That's where we are. Yeah,
absolutely. So my point is there are policies you can create that will foster that growth within the community. And then the community then begins to learn how to support itself so that now government does one of two things. It either gets better, which would be amazing, or it goes away, which should be even better. But either way, it's a win, right? Either way, it's a win. And more importantly, the community is still serviced. And something else, the community isn't afraid of not being serviced, because what stops us from making government smaller more than anything is fear. That is the biggest barrier. And if the community knows, no, if they go away, it's okay. We're going to get serviced anyway, because Marcus has got that cool company that does that thing that we need. Oh, okay. We're not afraid.
Have you ever seen the video where there's this little kid and he's hanging on a rope in the water and he's screaming and his parents are trying to tell him to let go of the rope and he won't let go of the rope? And they're telling him, they're like, no, it's okay. And he's screaming. And then finally they like get his body like tilted and he's like standing up and he's like waist deep in the water. And he's like, oh shit. Like that's how this is. Like there's so much of this that's just like the unknown is so fearsome that people just lose their minds when they even have to think about what are they going to do. But the interesting thing about what's gone on in the last 18 months, or it's more than 18 months at this point, is I think that this seems to have possibly gone too far where people are like, wait a second, we're going to figure out ways around this. We're going to figure out ways to do this shit on our own because this is oppressive. And now they kind of fucked up and they like let people see like, hey, wait a second, we don't need this and this and this. And I'm going to go on purpose to the places that aren't licensed. Like I'm going to the farmer's market this weekend, and I'm going to go try and get some more phone numbers from people who are new to the farmer's market, because the more there are those people who are like cash basis, off the grid, barter, that kind of stuff, the more you start to cultivate that stuff, the more you also start to build that stuff on your own before a policy, gets put in place. But I like your idea. And I really like the way that you did that little twist of phrase where you said if the government got better, it would be amazing. And if the government just went away, it would be even better, because it's like, you can make everybody happy with that. With that phrasing.
And one of the things that I like, frankly, about this conversation, Larry, is, one of the things we've talked about is we're all kind of talking about the hero's journey and those kinds of ideas, and talking about how, like, each of us have a different role to play. And I really like your particular role because it's, I like Lord of the Rings. You remind me of an elf where you've got the bow and arrow, and you're really particular and you're aiming at, you're aiming at the
no.
What I'm saying is you're using politics as a way to get at freedom. My point is that earlier you talked about the black market. I'm a dwarf. Really, I'm an anarcho pirate. I'm all about the black market. Slam this shit down. Beat the fuck out of anybody in your way. And I don't mean violate the NAP and all that crap. What I'm talking about is an analogy. I'm all about, we need black market nurses. We need black market everything. I'm all about it. For me, I think what you're doing is extremely valuable. And I think that it lays a groundwork that frankly, is a long time coming. But in the meantime, I'm all about.
You said a couple things. You said groundwork and you said something else, black market. I would like to turn black market as simply uncredentialed.
Right.
Not black market, because I do want people to still be able to use courts and cops. Right? What goes to the black market, they can't use courts and cops. Now, will we eventually be able to have our own courts and cops? Eventually. That's not where we are now.
Right.
Let's take time to do that, because eventually even that comes. Again, every monopoly, something else pops up. The government either gets better, which is amazing, or it goes away even better, right? Either of those two things will happen if we keep this idea of just creating something else, creating community. We can do this over time. But you said groundwork. The thing I used to say all the time after I ran is I said, I'll break a hole in this wall. I'm a Marine. I don't mind being first in. I'll take the Bangalore torpedo. I'll go in. I'll blow a hole in this damn thing. But I'm going to blow a hole in. You got to follow me through. And that's what I kept saying. I'll blow a hole. You got to follow me through.
Sure.
And in 2019, 103 people followed me through. And then the government said, war's over. That was it. So now I got to go back. I got to hit the beach again. I got to get a beachhead again, break a hole in again. 2017, I was in New Jersey. 2018, I was in New Jersey at one of their conventions. And a kid asked me, he's a younger guy, probably 18. He was a student, 18 years old. He says, Larry, like, what archetype are you? And I didn't go Lord of the Rings. I went Star Wars.
Okay.
And I said, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm the guy who dies fighting Darth Vader, but then because of me, the rebel. Yes, I get stronger and the rebels win because of me. Right? Yeah. That's who I am, right? I died fighting Darth Vader. I died fighting Darth Vader, literally. Like, I died fighting Darth Vader. But now, hopefully, I can be stronger in that loss and create more of the rebellion, and more people can win. So I know I'm setting groundwork. I'm aware of that, Marcus, 100%.
Sure. I guess I'm Han Solo in a bit.
There we go. Yes.
See, and I go Thumb Wars. I don't know if anybody ever saw Thumb Wars by Steve Oden. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he did like all these little thumb. He called it Thumbmation. And anyway, at that scene where Luke is flying and trying to blow up the Death Star, he says, "Use the computer, Luke. That's what it's there for." instead of use the Force. Oh shit! Right. It sometimes it's like that. But no, that's interesting. And so I wanted to bring this comment up. I can't DSG label. I guess that's how you say that. It's commented a few times, and anyway, this one here says these economies exist already in every city across America. Everybody knows somebody who is watching kids or doing nails, and I want to. The reason I brought that up is because you said something about this with the 103 candidates, is that yes, some of that stuff exists, but it's off book and it's in danger at every turn, and you're looking over your shoulder and you're worried that somebody's going to come throw you in jail or fine you or kick you out of your apartment.
And they are
doing it already. Yes. Eric Garner is dead. Happening. Garner is dead.
Selling Lucy's.
Yes.
Facts. Yes.
So I get it, but I don't. I mean, look,
he's right, but that's why I don't want in the black market. All the violence is happening. Everyone thinks the violence is all drug violence. It's a lot of drug violence, but not just that. There's a guy, and to show my wife, like I grew up in the South Bronx, so I know hustlers when I see hustlers. Right? I know who's hustling. So we're actually in a parking lot in Queens, and there's a guy in an Audi SUV. He's got sunglasses on, talking on the phone, taking up 2 parking spots facing out, right? Not facing outward. And he's talking about, and his back is filled with stuff. I said, homeboy right there selling shit at the back of his car. He's black marketing right now. And my wife's like, really? I said, yeah, that's what he's always on the phone. He's on the phone talking about where he's going to buy and sell stuff from.
Right.
I said, let me ask
plug
you.
on one phone and to the
So I said, what happens when homeboy doesn't want to pay him? He said, what? I said, that guy right now, I'm 100% sure he's packing right now. There's no doubt. He has at least, he's got 5 figures worth of stuff in the back of his Audi. He's packing. And New York City has the worst gun laws on the planet, right? New York City. And he's got a gun on him right now. This is Queens, New York. I said, I'm guaranteed, I'll bet $1,000 he's got a gun on him right now.
Right.
And I said, and what happens when someone doesn't pay him? He's going to shoot him. And he's let everybody know. He can do it in broad daylight, so everyone knows. You don't pay your bills, I put a bullet in you. That's what happens. And if he doesn't have a crew, the crew who was against him now goes to fight him. It's not just drugs. It's the black market. Now, if we simply allow
alcohol 100 years ago.
Yes. But if we just allow this guy to work without having a license, and just as long as he says, I am an uncredentialed vendor, I don't mind. But as long as he can't be a fraudulent and go, no, I'm credentialed. That's a crime. Go to jail. But if you're saying, I'm not credentialed, dude, but I got these cool things I want to sell. Okay, let's do that. And
then
that's my point.
Your trust is all that you have at that point, because you don't have the credential that, and even with that, I was talking, it was funny. I was talking with Eric July about this way back when somebody was arguing with him on Twitter or something about how are you going to know that stuff is safe? And it's like, we already have a lot of this stuff with, like, whether it's Consumer Reports or these video game regulation magazine, or not regular, but video game rating magazines and things like that, where when a game's about to come out, whether it's a crap game or not. Like the public.
But there's 3 points to this here that she doesn't get. I hear this all the time. Number 1, it's voluntary.
Right.
If you don't trust him, don't buy. The regular stores still exist.
Right.
I'm not taking it away from you.
Exactly.
So stop worrying about what someone else does.
Right.
Worry about what you do. Right. You don't trust the guy, don't buy. Number 1. 2, theft is still theft. If he's stealing shit, he still goes to jail. Right. That doesn't change. You don't steal people's stuff. Right. And not just that. We already have examples of this already. Underwriters Laboratory, right? That checks up all that stuff, right? The Orthodox Union, which checks if things are if things are kosher or not. We already have that. But to be fair, he is correct in one. We don't have enough of it. So we have to have government say, because government now is still the daddy government, it's okay. Please do this. Please create more of these things. Create more. And what I'm saying is government should create an environment to where people want to. And the leaders, the executives, should be announcing it, using the bully pulpit, as I said, to influence people and say, why don't you have that? Hey, Chad, why aren't you starting an organization to check that? Why aren't you doing that? Hey, Marcus, why aren't you creating that? And if we start doing that, Nico, you talking trash all day. Start one of these things. Stop talking trash. Go do something. Now, if we're saying that, you will see more of them come up and we will feel safer, because we will be safer. And here's my example on this. And I always give real examples. Health food stores and natural food stores. Most of the things in these stores are not FDA approved. The vast majority. And I would ask you, these are things that people are putting in their bodies and in the bodies of children. Oh, the children! In the bodies of children. This is happening every day across our country. I would ask you, where are all the deaths from health food stores, natural food stores? They're non-existent. In fact, the healthiest people shop there.
We do.
Thank you. The healthiest people shop there. And this then, Chad. You know that there are multiple groups that check everything. They have their own insurance. The stores have their own guidelines. And there are many groups that get stamps from other groups that say, I approve this. This has been done. This is accurate. And somehow that functions just fine. And people trust it. And there's no deaths.
Absolutely.
So there is an example of that existing in our country right now.
I know, absolutely. And it does serve to self-regulate. And then the other thing I would say too is if you look at what prohibition did and how much crime, how much legitimate crime, I'm talking about theft and murder and all of that kind of shit that actually took place then. All right, let's look at alcohol now. How much theft and murder around the sale and trafficking of alcohol actually happens now? That it's
hardly
not,
any.
It is illegal.
Yes.
You know, like making shit illegal drives the price up, drives the intensity of the protection that you need and everything else, all that stuff you're talking about. The reason that guy is strapped is because he's got that money in the back, because he's got to have that much money in the back of his truck, because he can't have a storefront and do this stuff. So he can't
use a bank or he might get audited.
Right, exactly.
He can't use a bank, and if someone steals,
only,
if someone steals anything, he can't call the cops.
Right.
If someone doesn't do anything, he can't sue them. He has no courts, he has no cops, he has no bank. And again, this guy isn't doing drugs. They just made a black market. I have an idea. Get rid of the black market, get rid of violence. It's that simple. End the black market, you get rid of violence.
Absolutely.
And to be clear, the way you're talking about getting rid of the black market is replacing it with a free market, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but again, I say uncredentialed because if you just say free market, the average person, when they hear that, their connotation is big business runs everything.
Yeah.
That's
we know someone
free
like
market,
that.
They hear that.
We know a couple of people like that.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them's been on our show. Anyway,
for the idea of uncredentialed and credentialed, like, yeah, there's certain ways to get credentials, but what do you necessarily call somebody credentialed when they haven't been through a lick of school, but they have just the amount of knowledge as the credential? Like, it doesn't necessarily take for somebody to sit the 4 years in school that you did when I was just on the streets while you were still learning. Matter of fact, I'm more credentialed than you are at this point. So what makes somebody who's credentialed opposed to not?
That's my point. If you open up a market like that, I tell you what will happen. And you see that happen sometimes already. And that would be, I would say, as an example, I'm going to work for the government and I'm going to make sure that I teach the government credential, and that's what I give. But Marcus is going to have a different credential. His credential is going to be, do you know these things? That's going to be his credential. He's going to have the do you know these things credential. And you can pass that test. So Marcus will give you the do you know these things credential. So that'll be your credential. You'll get it from Marcus. You won't get my credential because I'm going to require 4 years of a college to get my credential. But Marcus is not. So you'll have Marcus's credential and not mine. And now the community decides, do they value Marcus's or mine or both or neither?
Or neither. And that's what I was going to say.
Or neither.
We even have, right now, there's plenty of people who are doing stuff that are completely off the book. And people are like, there's nobody else I would go to besides this person.
Correct.
Even though they have none of that shit.
So, Nico, to your point, the community would decide you'd get Marcus's credential. You'd show that one. You wouldn't show my credential because you didn't do the 4 years of school. You have Marcus's. And if the community goes, no, Nico, we only trust Larry Sharpe's government 4-year credential. We don't trust yours. You got to change or you got to go to school because you ain't going to work in that community. They only accept mine. Or if they go, we don't care about that idiot Larry Sharpe. Marcus is the man. We care about his. Then you're good to go.
I want Nico's credential.
There we go. That's it.
So Larry, I want to, because we are coming up on our hour, I do want to thank you for coming on. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this conversation is, we tend to be, I don't know, a little bit even farther off the beaten path than most libertarians do. We've interviewed quite a few what would be typically party members. Karen Ann. We've had Josh on here. We've had Adam, obviously, but I really like having you on because you offer those solutions. And I think that, like I kind of started when we started talking, it's important to me to have a strong libertarian party. And so I want to, before we end this, I do want you to let people know where they can find you. We have your links down below and
literally pumping it the Sharpe way right here. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I mean, is there
I'm on the Sharpe Way everything, right? I'm on the Sharpe Way YouTube, Twitter. I got a TikTok. I got all the interwebs
and all
stuff.
That stuff. Yeah.
I got the .com. I got all the things, right? So yes, if you want to find the Sharpe Way, I have all the things that you could imagine. Yes. And of course, if you care, you also go to Larry Sharpe. LarrySharpe.com, and Larry Sharpe is my more political side, if that makes any sense. When I was running for office, I kept that. If I run again, I'll keep all that stuff back open again. And my podcast is The Sharpe Way, and I have all the Sharpe Way stuff, everything from Twitter to Instagram to all the things. So please follow me. It does matter. For those of you who think, does it matter if I follow that Larry Sharpe guy? It does, because I get shadow banned constantly. I am shadow banned all the time. So please like and subscribe to everything that has my name on it, please.
Yes,
if you
indeed.
if you don't care, then turn the notifications off, but subscribe anyway. And then if you hate my show, share it with your friends and punish them, and you can go home. But please share my show, like and comment, and do all the things that get me past the shadow banning, please.
Yes, and do the same for our show too. Share our show as well. And by the way, I have to say this, since you brought up following you. All right, so you follow like almost 5,000 people, and you don't follow me. And I invited you to come on this show, and you went and followed Marcus today, and you still not following me. So my feelings are hurt. No, I'm messing with you.
But
No,
hold on.
It's all good.
My team is listening. To be very full with you, I don't follow anybody.
Oh, you don't follow anybody? All right.
I'm actually hardly ever on my social media.
Oh, there you go.
I have a team that does all these things.
Good.
I am rarely on, to be fair. I work and do stuff like this.
Yeah.
So my team is listening now. Guys, please do me a favor. Follow Chad.
It's all good. It's all good.
Not
Chad
me.
is my
I'm
name.
sorry.
I
Yes.
just had to mess with you because
No. I have a feeling you're about to be followed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. No, more important is to be able to have this conversation and to be able to, like, we've talked a few times. I think I met you back in like 2017. You came to New Orleans for one of the LNC meetings, and
Yep.
we hung out a little bit there, and then in the 18 convention, the 20 convention, and beyond. And so I appreciate just getting a chance to chop it up and actually have this conversation, because I think it's important for everybody to get to see that even with the different perspectives that they've seen on our show and with our audience and everything, that we are in touch with, and we are in alignment with so many different perspectives and approaches to how we get to our ultimate goal, which is a voluntary society where no one is pointing guns at each other to initiate force to achieve whatever goals they're trying to achieve. And then instead we find cooperation and voluntary means to do that stuff. And the only time we have to wield our weapons is to defend ourselves.
That would be it. I said I have a fantasy world that I would love to have. I would love to have an amazing unicorn-filled fantasy world where nobody buys a gun because they're afraid of anyone else. Wouldn't that be amazing? If that you would only buy a gun because you think guns are cool, or because you want to hunt.
Right.
That would be the only reason why you'd buy a gun. Wouldn't that be an amazing world?
Yeah, if we lived in the world where the things that they say that in the gun control places, they say that that's the only reason you get to own one. If that was actually the only reason people wanted to own one,
yes. If people would voluntarily decide that I don't want to buy a gun unless I think they're cool, because who needs it? I feel completely safe in my life.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Right. I would love a world that way. But again, that in that world, leprechauns ride unicorns.
Right. And I also appreciate you bringing a bit of reality to what because a lot of what we talk about can be sort of abstract and theoretical in terms of like what we want to ultimately see in the world. But you're bringing like, this could happen tomorrow. We could do this tomorrow. It's just a matter of making a tweak to, instead of licensing, make it credentialing. That's not that hard.
Yes.
Of a thing to do. It's not that hard, and it gets us further down the path to freedom, because what I don't want to do is have us allowing the perfect be the enemy of the good, where we say, well, it's not full anarchy, so I'm out. You know, like, well, like, okay.
So hold on, Chad, let me ask, did you get followed yet?
I don't know. I'm not paying attention to that right now, but
you got to check. See if you got followed.
Okay, fair enough.
There
Oh shit, Larry Sharpe's following me, y'all.
There we go. I knew that would happen. There we go. I knew what happened. They're watching. My team's watching, so I knew they would.
Funny.
Yeah.
Follow Nico too. His hat's at the bottom right there. Nico has the gems. He just
I drop gems. I'm just like kind of infatuated with how sharp Mr. Sharpe is because
look at this.
I like that.
I did my bad. I was about to start spewing on y'all.
Pause.
Go ahead, do it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I like how Mr. Sharpe is with the sharp word, with the sharp tongue, but I don't have to be the real one hung off these trees or labels because everything that he doesn't spit is a fable. Wait. So what you spit is actual facts, and you don't spit fallacies. I appreciate that. And you just like cut a groove for everybody to follow. Like the stuff you're spitting, it's not very hard to conceptualize. Like if you want something done, everybody put in $5, like our Patreon. But if you but you put in $5, everybody on your block put in $5 for your road to get fixed, it will get fixed. And if they don't want their roads fixed, okay, everybody can put those $5 in. We'll just drive around you because you didn't put your $5 in because it's a fair amount. All we want is a fair amount, and that's all you spew. So no, I appreciate your message. Yes, sir.
I'm rocking and rolling. I love it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Larry.
He did for you and send it to you. That was
I ain't even go crazy, but my bad.
Larry, thank you very much. Everybody that happens to follow us and doesn't follow Larry, if that person exists, please, please go follow it. Larry, he is definitely a leader in the freedom movement and has ideas and solutions, and somebody I'm proud to be associated with. And I hope that in the future you continue to just kick ass and do everything you can. And everybody should support what you do in the future because you've shown yourself to do good things in the past. So
thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
thank you.
It was an honor, man.
And everybody,
everybody,
stay free.
Oh shit, I wasn't ready. All right, here we go.
Getting it out too fast.